Yo.
Safety initiative and young pros
Yeah, yeah.
in the traffic map.
Don't get distracted while driving. Don't get distracted while driving. Don't get distracted while driving. Keep your eyes on the road, eyes on the road. Nobody distract your mind with a cellular. If you value life, best you leave that for later. Things happen fast, no time to be a gazer. Be safe now and you will be happy later. The last place you wanna be is up in a desert. No the check, no Facebook while you're the drive. No the stare pan pretty girl and forget to the drive. And please no the take no selfie when you the drive. Hey, don't get distracted while driving. Don't get distracted while driving. Don't get distracted while driving. Keep your eyes on the road, eyes on the road. Don't get distracted while driving. Don't get distracted while driving. Don't get distracted while driving. Keep your eyes on the road, eyes on the road. Yo. Woo.
And that was the perfect introduction for the conversation that we are about to start. We're talking about road safety regulations for motorists and talking about road safety specifically for September celebrations. We have opening up the segment Sylvian Neal, who is a youth advocate for the Belize Road Safety Project. And on set with us already, we have Peter Williams, who is a prosecutor for the Department of Transport. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having us.
Hey, you know what? It's nice to have you guys in, and especially the conversation that we're about to head on into. Extreme importance to us because we have to face the fact that traffic accidents are one of the leading cause of death in our country. Now let's get to regulations and those that are commonly broken.
So we have quite a few, to be honest, but the main ones are the speeding, the driving under the influence, and not wearing a seatbelt. And now we see more commonly as well is distracted driving, as the artist rightfully mentioned, and these are some of the leading causes of collisions in our country today.
Yeah. Now, it is so important, we hear some of these tragic stories of persons losing sometimes their entire family in accidents, and we're all heartbroken, but it doesn't seem to translate into changes in our own behavior. So I may know that a baby was killed in a car accident, but I don't put my child in a car seat. I may know that somebody was drinking under the influence and died or killed someone, but I still have 2 drinks. Or now we see people smoking marijuana and driving as well. What is it like from your end in continuing the education to get this change in our behavior?
Quite honestly, that process is never ending because we're dealing with human behavior, and human behavior, as we know, evolves with time, different generations. For example, we have some of the older drivers on the road. Whenever they're stopped, the common excuse that they would say is, I've been driving for 30 years, before you were even born. So how can you tell me how to drive? That's an issue. We have younger drivers who are more risk takers, and so it's difficult to let them understand that by speeding, by drinking and driving, not wearing a seatbelt, texting and driving, these other forms of distractions can also lead to a collision. So we look at the different generations and we see that it's difficult, but we just need to continuously reach out to the schools. One of the things that we often do is that we go to primary school, we go to high school, even sometimes we go to preschool. Because it's never too early and it's never too late to relay that information. And one of the things that we found that works a lot for us, when we go to primary schools and we engage the primary school students, we find that they're the ones who often relay that information to their parents. I have my niece, and whenever we talk, if I say something to her, she will say, "Mommy, Uncle said that," right? And so my sister is then obligated, she feels more compelled, because when I talk to her, sometimes she might be like, you're taking it too far, you know,
Yeah.
I know that's your job, whatever, but when my niece does it, it just
Does.
compels her a bit more,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you guys, you know, you're exposed. Why do we adhere to traffic rules in other countries but not here at home? Do you think that we're not doing enough in terms of advocating to these people?
Personally, I would say enforcement has a lot to do with it. We have 3 main enforcement agencies that deals with with the traffic laws of Belize. We have the Department of Transport, we have the Police Department, and we have the municipal authorities. And we often try to work together to tackle this issue, but still we're having some difficulties with that. But nonetheless, I believe enforcement plays a crucial role in this, because for many years, we often just give a break, or we might just let the person know, okay, you know, if we stop them at the checkpoint, just put on your seatbelt, and we don't penalize them for it.
Yeah.
And so that has to stop. And so that's what we're looking at now, to ensure that we step up our enforcement game.
I mean, if we use the classic example of Mexico, you know, if you just drive past any officer, not even a highway patrol, and they say you don't have on a seatbelt, they will turn right around and stop you, like instantaneous. So we know we have to keep it on. But we don't see that kind of response. If I drive past a police officer, for example, and I'm not wearing my seatbelt, they don't.
Yeah, and to add to what you guys are saying, I guess it's, some people like to say it's the laid back culture that we have here. And so what we've really been trying to do is try to get people out of that mindset, because many of us as road users, whether it be using a bike or a vehicle or even walking, we are set in our ways, right? So it's really hard to try to add something new to what you already know, because you are already set on, okay, this is the way I do every day. Why? Nobody can really change my mentality. But at the end of the day, we are trying to get people to be more safer. Try to do more things that will allow them to be safer while using the road, right? It's like Peter said, it's an ongoing task. I think it has to start from they're very young, and that's what we like to do now. Start with the younger kids and stuff, and go on to the other ages.
Well, I want to ask you, as a youth advocate, it's probably very unpopular that you are promoting safe driving, because, and I don't mean that in a bad way, we just know that as Peter mentioned, young people are risk takers, and it's, you know, it's cool to drive fast. It's cool to do things that seem risky, like drinking and driving, smoking and driving. Why have you committed yourself to this? And how difficult is it for you to walk the straight line, sending the message?
Well, actually, I won't lie, some days it's very hard, because sometimes you get to some points where you feel like, why am I doing this? And people seem to stay in the same way of thinking, that same mentality, you know. But walking that straight and narrow, it's not easy, but I try to do most of the stuff that I promote with the road safety, you know. And some days, we do have days when we would get in a car and probably the seatbelt is not working properly. So in that case, you can't really do anything about that, no? But in the case that we get in something, in the case where we would get into the situation and someone is not wearing a seatbelt, I would actually tell them, try to wear a seatbelt and try to give them a reason why they should be wearing that seatbelt. No, but it's been a great experience so far. A lot of people are very receptive now. A lot of them are very receptive, and then some of them, they still try to argue with you, but you know, they always find a way.
But you know, Peter, we have seen a lot now of the road. We've seen the road people out there. We've seen these folks, and they've been very advocate, especially when you stop at a checkpoint. Now, since the height of it, have we seen less road traffic accidents? What are we seeing? What are the studies showing?
Okay, so the recent statistics is showing that, for example, last year we had about 90 collisions throughout the country, and only 13 of those took place on the demonstration corridor, which is a tremendous improvement. And be reminded that the demonstration corridor is from Belize City to Belmopan.
Yeah.
And that used to be one of the most deadly stretch of highways in the entire country. Unfortunately, in a sense, for this year, we are at 48 collisions throughout the country. But on the demonstration corridor, we only have 2. So again, that is showing that on the demonstration corridor, there has been a significant improvement as it relates to, more safer driving, etc. But now we're seeing the problem being transferred, so to speak, into other areas.
Yeah.
And so that is being looked at very, very closely to see how we can apply what we've learned through the road safety project and apply it to other areas.
What's the difference between, and that those are very, everybody used to be fearful of driving, or I should say myself, I was fearful of driving the George Price Highway before the road safety project, because you always knew the slick roads, specific curves, and but what is different about the George Price Highway between Belize and Belmopan that you've seen the reduction, other than the infrastructure changes?
Okay, other than the infrastructure changes, we have enforcement. That is the main thing, because the officers in the highway patrol, they often, we have, the way how it's set, we have in the team from Belize district, we have 2 teams, one that patrol the northern highway and one that patrols the western highway on the demonstration corridor. Likewise, in Belmopan, we have sometimes 3 teams, one that would patrol on the Hummingbird, one that would patrol from Belmopan to Cayo, and then we have the other one that patrols from Belmopan to Belize City. And so we have those 2 patrols that would be on the demonstration corridor, and these guys, they take it quite seriously, and they enforce to the best of their ability.
So the enforcement, does make an issue.
And to add to that, in the past, one of the things that affected the Department of Transport is that we did not have our prosecution section, and so we relied very heavily on the police in the past, and we are grateful for all the assistance that they had given us in the past. But now that we have our own prosecution section, now we have seen an increased amount of convictions. Right now, our conviction rate is about 90% conviction. At the Department of Transport. We take it very seriously, so whenever we put out a press release or something and we let people know that they will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, we are quite serious about that. And I have to give credit to the magistracy, because at first it was a bit difficult to introduce some of these legislation. For example, with the breathalyzer, a lot of people were unaware that there is actually a legislation for the use of the breathalyzer. And so people would say, oh, I'll beat that case because there's no law for that. And then when we end up before the court, and then we present the evidence to the magistrate, and then they see, oh, wow, it's legislated.
Yeah.
And then they get the shock of their life when they get disqualified from driving, or they get a fine.
Yeah.
And so,
One of the things, and I'm not sure if it's in, but it was tinting.
Yes.
No, there was this big thing about tinting, and then people are now on the road with heavy tints. What's going on there? And one of the things that I noticed on the road, and I'm sure everybody does as well, when a Guatemalan vehicle is coming over the borders, it's heavily tinted, all windows, all mirrors. What goes on within this particular area?
That is an excellent question. So we're looking at that issue very closely. When the tint law was first passed, we had intense enforcement throughout the country, police, transport, and the municipal level. But since then, we had some difficulties in prosecuting them at the time because of the way in which the law was created. And so we've since crossed that hurdle, and now we're back at it again.
So the legislation has been updated?
Yes, it actually was updated shortly after it was passed.
Okay.
They just had a slight error on it, and so that has been amended, and so we're looking at it again. For example, we have in Benke, I must give kudos to the Benke Police Department and the Benke municipality. They have been intensely enforcing the tint law over the past week or so, and this has really helped to get to get everything going for the other district areas. But we are looking at it very closely because a lot of people, we get so many different excuses and reasons why people should have their tint. But
let me ask the question though, what does a tinted vehicle have to do with road safety? So
one of the main things is not only for the safety of the person who is driving, we look at it from an enforcement standpoint. Bear in mind that our officers work long hours in isolated areas, right? And it's a safety for our officers as well, because, for example, we have operations sometimes 3 in the morning at maybe mile 70 on the Southern Highway. No one is out there, right? And so it's very important for officers to be able to see who is in that vehicle, what are they doing, because there's so many different scenarios. So from an enforcement standpoint, it helps us as enforcement officers. And I know that a lot of people who are not involved in enforcement, they are not too happy about the tint law. And we hear excuses or reasons rather. People say they have medical issues, they have, a wide range of issues. And so we're looking at that. We had submitted another draft proposal to Cabinet to have the law amended again to try to make it more suitable across the board for everyone. Right, so we're looking at that.
And does that include that government vehicles are the first to come online?
Actually, right now as we speak, that is the main priority that we're looking at, to ensure that all government vehicles do not have any tint.
Fantastic.
So we're taking different approaches. For example, rather than meet them on the checkpoint, we would just go to where it's parked, to where the vehicles are parked, and then we just have them removed there. Because there is a misconception with government drivers, people who drive for the government, they believe for whatever reason that they're immune to the law, and that is not so. If you're driving and you don't have your driving license, if you're speeding, if you don't have on your seatbelt, they are not immune to the legislation, to the law.
I want to bring it back to some of the safety issues though, because you had mentioned, and that was a very good point, the speeding issue, and that is something that we continue to see with its many challenges. Today, we really want to educate people about what you can do to save your life and the life of your loved ones in the car. And there seems to be a disconnect between not using the cell phone, not having any drug, being under the influence of any drug, and not having on, and speeding, right? And seat belts. So let's talk about how much these things can save your life if you pay attention to them.
Excellent. So my first advice to anybody who operates a motor vehicle would be know your vehicle. Know your vehicle. And knowing your vehicle can mean a few things. One, I would strongly advise anybody who owns a motor vehicle to read your owner's manual. First of all, a lot of people, if you buy a new TV, a new game, a new phone, we don't read our manuals, and it's very important.
My car has a manual?
Yes, and that manual is very, very crucial to the longevity of your vehicle, basically. And also, we've seen an increase in the number of vehicles in the country over the past few years. And most people, they have this misconception that, okay, I have a vehicle, all I need to do is just jump in and drive. That's it. But it's more to it than that. I would recommend that, firstly, whenever you're about to drive a vehicle, you start your vehicle and you leave that vehicle to idle at least for 10 seconds minimum. You need to allow that engine to warm up so that the fluids within the engine can circulate, and then that will help your vehicle. Secondly, inspect your vehicle. Basic inspections that you can do. You don't need to be a mechanic to know some of these basic things. What I do personally, I go on YouTube, and you could just type in your vehicle make and model, and you will see a variety of videos that shows you how to check different things. So you don't need to be a mechanic. I would first advise you check your tires. Checking your tires can comprise of 3 main things that you will look for. One, you check the tire treading. ensure that you have some treading on your tire. 2,
No onion skins.
no onion skin as we call them, right? 2, check the tire pressure. People don't realize how important it is to ensure that the tire pressure is on point. You could get the tire pressure,
pressure
gauge, and then they have the digital ones as well.
Wow.
And it's actually inscribed in your car.
Yes. By the door, you could see what PSI is applicable, or in the user's manual, the owner's manual, you can find what is the appropriate PSI for your tires. And thirdly, with the tires, one of the things that a lot of people don't know is that on the tire, you might see a lot of markings, numbers, and those markings have a purpose,
yes.
right? And the main thing on the tire is the year of the manufacture of the tire. It's recommended that if you purchase a tire, it should be no more than 10 years. Because what we've seen, maybe a person might go and buy a tire from a tire store and it has the treading and it looks good. But that tire was manufactured for more than 10 years, but it looks good. And then when they put it on, and they drive down the lane, then you end up with something like that. Then you wonder, but I just purchased a brand new tire. How is it that, because the tire is rubber, and then you know rubber after a while, it gets brittle. So it's important that you check the manufacturer date. And how do you check that? On the tire, there's the last four
Digits
numbers. The last 4 digits. I think
So tires have an expiration date.
Yes, basically it has an expiration date.
Wow.
Right, and so the first 2 numbers would signify the week which the tire was manufactured, and then the last 2 would be the year. So for example, if you see the last 4 digits, for example, might have 0413. So that is saying that it was manufactured the 4th week of, the 4th month, I'm sorry, of 2013. And so you know that from 2013 you have 10 years more or less. Some manufacturers recommend no more than 6.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Right. So for example, this one has 43, and there are some variations with it. As you can see, you have the plant code, meaning where it was manufactured, the size. You have the vehicle tire size of the tire is often there as well, the design spec. But it's the last 4 digits that you often want to look for. To know when it was manufactured.
So let me ask a different question, because in addition to, there's a reason you need to know your cars. One, if your brakes fail on you on the highway, that's an accident. If your tires aren't in good shape, you have a blowout. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, because we don't learn these skills. What happens if I have a blowout on the road? What is the best way to do it without losing or putting myself in greater danger than I already am?
Okay, so before you even drive a vehicle, ensure that you have your tire repair kit, your spare tire. The same checks that you would do on the tires that are on the vehicle, your pressure, the manufacturing year, etc. Ensure that your spare tire meets those requirements as well. Ensure you have your spare. Ensure you have your jack. Ensure you have your tire wrench, so that if you get a blowout, you're able to change that. Now, if you get a blowout, we recommend that you drive as far off the road as possible, as far to the left as possible, to not cause any obstruction to the flow of traffic as vehicles are passing by.
Or to the right.
Wait, hold on.
Sorry, no, to the left. So, for example, if I'm coming to Belize City, you're on the left, so you just pull off as close as possible to the left, so that you're not impeding the flow of traffic going to Belize City. And likewise, if you're heading to Belpandin, right? Yeah.
So wait, let me, because I've heard many things about this. One, that you shouldn't. I'm saying this because we've seen accidents of recent where the police report it as people just lose control and they flip.
Okay.
I don't know if it's blowouts, but we know that blowouts do happen and do cause people to flip as well. So I'm using that example.
Okay.
But maybe there are other reasons why people lose control.
So quite a few things that would play into that. Your suspension.
Yes.
That is very crucial. You need to ensure that your front struts are working properly and your rear shocks. How do you know that? Basic test, you shake the vehicle. If you shake your vehicle and you see that it's bouncing too much, that is the first indicator that you need to change your suspension. Now, because it should be stiff, that is the reason why the suspension is there, right? Secondly, you have things like the the sway bar links, you have your bushings, and you have ball joints. So those are some of the other main things, because sometimes people get into accidents because of a faulty ball joint. So it's not always because of being impaired. Sometimes it's just some mechanical failure.
Roadworthiness of your car.
Right? So those, and some people might wonder about what is a bushing, what is a ball joint, what is, you can go online. Everything is online.
Everything is online.
If you want to know how to change a part on your vehicle or fix something, you just type in how to fix this problem, and you're going to find it on YouTube. Everything is.
And if you're the regular driver for your car, you hear and feel when things are different, and you know that it has to go in and get a checkup.
Which is why it's important to know your vehicle.
Yeah. And then going back to the blowout, so I'm on the highway and my tire, I don't know what you call it, explode. It has a blowout. We try to get off the road. That's the most important thing. And you don't press the brakes, is that what it is?
Yes. Because based on what I've learned through my trainings, you should not press the brake, because that is only going to make it worse. That might cause the vehicle to spin, to flip, etc. I've also learned that it's not a good practice to try to steer the vehicle
off.
You leave it.
Oh.
You just leave it.
So you take your foot off the gas.
Take your feet off the brakes and the gas, and then you just leave it. Because if you try to shift the steering, that might cause you to flip. Likewise, if you try to brake the vehicle, that could cause you to hydroplane, that could cause you to spin, a variety of reasons. And again, that would be determined by your suspension. If you have poor suspension, that could affect that. If you have poor tires, that could affect that. And also the road, right? If it's wet, if it's a really hot day, and so it really depends if there's oil on the road. So
these are all interesting stuff.
And then for Peter and Sylvian, the September celebrations are here, and one of the things that we I'm going to use this word loosely. We pride ourselves in having drinks during this particular time. Parties in Belmopan, parties in Orange Walk, and all over this country. And you would want to go because you want to support your brothers and sisters in different municipalities. What are some of the heightened things from the transport department that we'll be seeing out on these roads this particular time?
We can assure the general public that there will be intense enforcement. Right now, we're just finalizing our operations. We want to engage with the police and the municipal authorities. We enjoy having that sister agency approach, and so we're looking at that just to finalize everything, because, as you know, there will be events in all the municipalities, and so the police and the municipal agencies, their officers will be tasked to do other things, but we're trying to see if we could get maybe one or two of them to join with the Department of Transport in trying to deal with some of these issues. Secondly, we'll be having our enforcement officers at the border points, at the Benke border and at the northern border, to try to deter people from going over the border and drinking. And so those are two of the main things. And of course, we will have the breathalyzer to ensure that people are not drinking and driving. And to further deter people, we want to reiterate that we will be prosecuting everybody who we meet driving under the influence. And now, one of the questions that often arise is the issue with driving under the influence and driving above the prescribed limit. Those are two separate offenses. And a lot of people are unaware of that. So whenever we charge with the breathalyzer, we charge for driving under the influence, because you're not above the prescribed limit, but you have alcohol consumption, alcohol in you, right, in your system. So, and on the other hand, we have driving above the prescribed limit, whereby that's when you will get the test for the alcohol or in your blood or urine, right? And so those are just some of the things that we'll be looking at.
Yeah. We just want to advise everybody, like me and Stick the artist said on the commercial we did, you need to get a driver who is not drinking, a driver who is not under the influence. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for you to just go out there driving, because the drinking actually slows down your motor skills, right? And it also slows down your reaction time. So you can be seeing something and then it delays the time that you have to react. By the time you actually react, you are probably already in some serious incident that can really put your life in danger or even take your life
or
at the same
harm
time.
someone else
Yeah.
as well.
You think you're reacting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, and I think we keep on saying it, find somebody who is not drinking to drive, or find another way to get to the location. If you get home, catch a taxi. But I want to get back to seatbelts too, because I just wish people would. We see all these accidents where people are ejected from vehicles.
Yes.
There's nowhere in the police report that says they didn't have on seatbelts, but if they're ejected from the vehicle, we can make a fairly good assumption that they're not wearing seatbelts. And legally, we're required to do so. So let's talk about how seatbelts save lives.
All right. Well, basically the seat belts, they basically keep you in place. They basically keep you in place, right? So that when, let's say, the vehicle stops, that seat belt will be the factor that keeps you from probably flying through the window. And a lot of people like to say, well, the only people up front need to wear the seat belt, right? And I think that is for everyone. Everyone should be wearing the seatbelt, especially those in the back. Especially, and why I say especially, because when someone is, let's say, directly behind the driver, right, and you are not wearing a seatbelt any at all. Let's say that vehicle is going at least 50 miles an hour, and then bam, a sudden break in front of a speed bump or something like that. That person will continue to travel as the vehicle stops, right?
That's right.
So that is
Right
a lot
into
of
Right into the driver.
driver.
all the
Shifting his
energy,
driving.
all that energy that is in that person, bam, that person turns into a missile, and that can even break the driver's neck instantly.
And imagine if it's a small child.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine.
Yeah.
One of the things
Devastation.
we continue to see are people riding behind pickup trucks, in the pan of pickup trucks. What are we doing to enforce this?
Well, as you know, that's a cultural practice in Belize. However, the law clearly states that you must have a seating capacity for the vehicle. But because it's a cultural practice, we try to work with people as best as possible. And so we often advise people, if you're carrying anybody in the back of the pickup truck, have them seated flat in the pan of the truck. Don't sit on the edge.
On the rail, yes.
Sit flat. We do enforce that, and we issue a violation ticket for passengers who are not seated properly. Right. So whenever we meet vehicles with persons who are standing in the pickup back, we issue a fine for that offense.
Another thing that's out there on the highway, on the highways, dump trucks with sand
Gravel.
and gravel,
Yeah.
loose rocks. What are we doing to enforce this? Because it's dangerous, and even if one of those rocks or pebble falls out out of that truck, that thing is coming to you as a
Yeah.
missile, and it's only natural that you will react.
Yeah.
And many a times you react, and at the same time you're turning.
Yeah.
So what are we doing to enforce this?
Actually,
But there's also the keep your distance law. Yeah.
There you go.
so exactly. So 2 points. As Marlene rightfully mentioned, you should not be tailgating a vehicle any at all. You should at least, depending on your speed, you should at least be perhaps maybe 2 to 3 vehicle length behind whatever vehicle that you're traveling behind. Also, the issue with the dump trucks is that it's against the law to be carrying those loads without a tarpaulin. And so whenever these persons who are operating these dump trucks, if they don't have the tarpaulin, they're actually issued a $200 ticket fine. Right? So we do enforce it, but sometimes they do have some of them who escape us.
Yeah.
But I can say that we're looking at amending that particular legislation to have to make it mandatory that these trucks do not exceed a certain height, because for example, if this is the top of the pan of the dump truck. They have it maybe at 2-3 feet
the
over
heat,
that.
yes.
And so we're looking at having that mandated in law to ensure that it's kept at that
so
height.
it's more contained.
Yeah, so it's more contained, and then you won't have that overspill. So we're looking at that to have the law amended for that.
Yeah. So let's, before we close off, because this is really just rehashing information we've spoken about so many times. What we want to see is that people can make it through the September celebrations without incident on our highways. Just what is your closing advice? How do you connect with people to say, yes, it's a lot of changes from what we're used to. Yes, we have gotten through so many years driving without getting in an accident, but why should we now start taking these precautions?
For me, I'm very family oriented, and so I would use that to appeal to the general public. Think of your family. Also, as a young person, I have a lot of ambitions, and so I would appeal to other young persons like myself. Think of your future.
Of course.
Getting in a traffic collision doesn't always mean that you may get a couple of scratches or bruises, or you may die. Sometimes people get into collisions and they're left, impaired for the rest of their lives.
That's true.
They're restricted to a wheelchair. And so imagine if you're a young person and you get into an accident and, now you have to spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair.
That's true.
So think about your future. Think about your family.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in and giving us this very important reminder. And of course, we're not just all about talk. We're going to close off with another jingle by youth advocate for the Belize Road Safety Project, Sylvian Neal. Right?
Yeah, man.
So Sylvian's going to take us out to the break, and we will be back shortly after.
Of course.
This is a message
Yeah.
from the Belizean Youth for Road Safety
Turn
in
up.
collaboration with the Belize Road
Yeah.
Safety
Wow.
Initiative
Huh?
and Sol Belize.
When you reach that light, take heed, reduce speed. Hold up when you reach that light. Take heed, reduce speed. You better hold up when you reach that light. Hold up when you reach that light. Wait till it change up when you reach that light. Hold up when you reach that light. Wait till it change up. Hey, red means stop. Green means go. When you see the yellow, then a time to go slow. Some people like rush while they mafia so. Your destination got nowhere to go. Look out for people when they walk across the road. Look out for people when they ride across the road. When you're walking, look out for the hand signs to the pedestrian signal wheel. When you reach that light, take heed, reduce speed. Hold up when you reach that light. Take heed, reduce speed. You better hold up when you reach that light. Hold up when you reach that light. Wait till it change up when you reach that light. Hold up when you reach that light. Wait till it change up. Hey. Thank you, Belize. Thank you to open your eyes.